Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a brand new series called Glam Metal Masterpieces. Who can't use some more glam metal in their life? I know I certainly can. It's one of my favorite genres and types of music. It's what got me going in my love of music and collecting and all that sort of stuff. And so while glam metal's roots go back to the early 80s, the era itself was really defined as 1986 to 1991. So a very short 5-year period of time, but I think it produced some outstanding genre and music defining albums that are all glam metal masterpieces. That's what I want to talk about here. So I'm going to be focusing on top tier albums as part of this series here, saving those lesser known albums for the Glam Metal Gym series that I already do. And if you're interested in that, I will leave a link in the description. You can check that out again if you want some more glam metal in your life. All right, but before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. Of course, I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, if you turn on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on really cool series, especially new ones like this for Glam Metal Masterpieces. Now, I've got 5 of them here to run through with you. No particular order other than the fact I'm going to go by year. This isn't really a ranking of any kind. It is just to shine a light on some of my absolute favorite glam metal masterpieces. All right, first one up here, Cinderella, Long Cold Winter from 1988. Absolutely love this album here. It was their second album produced by Andy Johns, who worked with the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin. I mean, we should have known this album was going to be a monster when he got involved with it. The band here mixed a good deal of blues rock into this one, moving on from their debut that had more of the metal sound and stuff like that in it. But mixing that blues rock in with the glam metal sounds and everything that they were starting with really helped set the band apart from the masses. I think that's one of the reasons this album was as big as it was. Featuring hits like Gypsy Road, Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone, which went to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, followed by Coming Home going to number 20 and Last Mile going to number 36. And I think you're going to find that a lot to be the case with these albums here, that, yeah, they sold a lot of albums. This one here, 3 million copies in the US alone. But they actually had bona fide hits with these things. And a lot of people try to diminish that aspect of these bands years on, later on. Oh, they're just glam metal bands. But no, these bands actually had huge, big selling albums with, as I said, bona fide hits. So for me, though, it's the deeper cuts on a lot of these albums, which is what pushes them over the top, falling apart at the seams. The album opener, so good, but I actually like some of the deeper ones on here. If You Don't Like It and Fire and Ice, all really, really good tracks on this. And so, you know, it's all this stuff together that makes this a glam metal masterpiece. Next one up, Alice Cooper, Trash from 1989. Again, just another one that from start to finish I can listen to. It's his 11th studio album, 20 years on from the Alice Cooper Band, which debuted in 1969. This one here really put Alice back on top, resurrecting his career. And like so many albums before it, he reinvented himself for this one. So while Alice Cooper himself is not a glam metal artist per se, this album, I believe, firmly rooted in the glam metal genre. So I'm going to go ahead and include it here. It was produced and co-written by Desmond Child, who I think really took this album to the next level. I think it's also what really gave it that glam metal feel. Desmond Child is involved in tons and tons of glam metal bands, but it's that songwriting, co-writing stuff that he did that is just outstanding. I love his writing. The album would go on to sell 1 million copies in the US and feature an absolutely huge hit for him. His first top 10 single since You and Me back in 1977, the song Poison. It's a big rocker and stuff like that, so not even a ballad, just really put him back on top. There was a lot of cool guests on it, which is another thing I liked about this album. From Aerosmith, we had Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Tom Hamilton, and Joey Kramer guesting on it. Then From Bon Jovi, we got John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, Hugh McDonald, which would become a future member, so I'm including him here as a member of Bon Jovi now. Winger, we got Kip Winger in here, who was part of his previous band back when he was doing more of the metal thing on albums like Constrictor and stuff like that. And from Toto, Steve Lukather is on here. Again, I think it's all of those sort of things that really elevate this. It's that songwriting, it is the sort of session musician mentality that's on here, those guys backing him up. But it's just a big, bombastic, over-the-top album that mixes sleaze, melodic hard rock, of the day all together. And then, of course, we got Alice sneering, lamenting about the world and everything is the way that he does, which I think just sort of captured everything perfectly on this album. Not a bad track on here. House of Fire, it's a co-write with Joan Jett. Bed of Nails, got two of the best or greatest songwriters in my opinion. We got Desmond Child and Diane Warren on it. She's another fantastic songwriter. Hell is Living Without You, another great track. This one here featuring co-write with John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora. All those things together on here making this one a glam metal masterpiece. Next one up, Skid Row, self-titled album from 1989, debut album. A lot of people will say that Skid Row is not a glam metal band, and I completely disagree with that. Definitely this album here, look at it, listen to it, everything, it is a glam metal album. Yes, they may have quickly began to change on Slave to the Grind and follow up Subhuman Race, but at this time, glam metal. And at least this album is glam metal, sort of the way I'm looking at Alice Cooper, Trash, as being a glam metal album. It's produced by Michael Wagner. It's full of wild guitars and amazing standout vocals on here from Sebastian. Huge choruses on this. Skid Row was one of the originators of the gang style vocal. Warrant is another one. Skid Row uses it to great effect here. The album would go on to sell 5 million copies just in the US, one of the biggest selling albums to come out of the glam metal era. Featuring huge hits like Youth Gone Wild, 18 in Life, which was a #4 Billboard Hot 100 hit, and I Remember You, which went to #6. So again, here's those hits that these bands had coming off these things. But throughout all 11 tracks that are on this album, including the two openers on here, Big Guns and Sweet Little Sister, there's just so many great tracks. I also really liked Piece of Me and Here I Am. So those two songs are actually the reason that I bought this album. It wasn't because of the big 3 hits that came off it. I heard those one day and thought, wow, if the sort of deeper cut style songs, the ones that weren't the big chart topping ones and stuff like that, were as good as that, then hey, I'm gonna like the rest of this album. And so I think it's just kind of, again, all those sort of things on here that make this a glam metal masterpiece and why I'm at least including it. Next one, Poison, Flesh and Blood, third studio album, phenomenal album, produced by Bruce Fairbairn, who pretty much anything he touches is great. He just elevates any band that he worked with at the time. Rest in peace, certainly, as he's passed away, which is very unfortunate. But I think this is an album where everything came together for Poison. The party rock sound from the first album, the lyrical depth and different sounds that were employed on their second album, but now they're delivering it with more of a soulful blues undertones that they would take even further on their fourth album, Native Tongue. But you get all of that mixed in here really, really well, and I just think it made for a very mature sounding, glam metal, but still yet party, fun, rock, like all of that. It was just a really, really great album. Ultimately selling 3 million copies in the US. It featured 4 top 40 Billboard Hot 100 hits. Unskinny Bop, the lead single, Rock Track, goes all the way to #3. It's their highest charting single of this album. Something to Believe in, the ballad, would go to #4, but I always found it interesting that the rock song did even better. Ride the Wind was top 40 at #38, and Life Goes On, even the last single on the album, as we began to move into alternative rock and grunge and all that sort of stuff like that, still went all the way to #35, another top 40 hit for them there. But for me, again, it's those deeper cuts that are on here. I love the song Valley of Lost Souls. That was something very different for them. Let It Play, Come Hell or High Water, and Life Loves a Tragedy. That beautiful balladry type opening that then kicks into the full-on rock song that it is. Could have been a huge hit, I think, if it had been released. And again, just all those things making this a glam metal masterpiece. All right, the last one we're going to talk about here, and the reason I'm wearing this great, wonderful Rat Detonator shirt, because we're going to talk about Rat and Detonator. The album from 1990, fifth studio album produced by Sir Arthur Payson, who was Desmond Child's right-hand man. And, you know, Desmond Child co-writes this album, but we've got this guy that is Desmond Child's right-hand man taking the album in the same places that Desmond Child would have taken it. And so like Alice Cooper's Trash, I think Desmond Child's co-writes on this album is what pushes it over the top and really elevates it here. It's the last album to feature the original lineup of the band. And while not as successful as previous albums that went platinum and multi-platinum, this one here would only sell 500,000 copies going gold. For me, at least, the album itself stands head and shoulders above all the rest of their albums. Yes, even above Out of the Cellar, which is a fantastic album, but I just absolutely love this one here. All the songs expertly written. Warren's riffing and lead work on here, I think, is most prominent on this album above any other. And in 30, I don't know, like this is 1990, so 33 years. God, I can't believe it's been around that long already. I've never tired of a single track on this album here. I still love it. The first two singles that came off of it blew me away. Loving You's a Dirty Job and Shame, Shame, Shame. They didn't make any more videos for any of the other songs that are on here, although they certainly should have. Or at least I'm not sure that they did. I know that they released a home video that only had those two on it. They might have made one more. But point is, it was deep cuts on this album. I mean, I love the album for the big hits, but All or Nothing, it has that sort of Way Cool Junior feel to it, which is another great track off the previous album, Reach for the Sky. Can't Wait on Love, it's just got some blistering lead work on it. And Giving Yourself Away, which is one of the best ballads that the band ever did, but just one of the best ones of the era. I think it should have been huge. That might have been the one that got a video, but just didn't get enough push. So these are just all songs that really elevated this album here, again, making this a glam metal masterpiece. And so there you go. First episode of Glam Metal Masterpieces. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, and you know, like me, I'm sure you've got your opinions on these. If this series does well, I'll continue to do more, so throw out the ones that you like. I'm sure I also agree with them and so forth, but I just started with these 5 here. There are certainly tons more glam metal masterpieces to be had. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.